I'm not hit record. Right, so I'll start to get slowly started with latecomers coming in. We will just kick off with a welcome and then get on with the rest of the show. So hello and welcome to the event where we're going to be discussing the benefits of studying in the UCL Faculty of Engineering Sciences and what you can expect when you come to study with us and afterwards. I'm Lucy and I lead the student recruitment and marketing activities across the 10 departments in UCL Engineering. And I'm pleased to be chairing today's session. So a quick bit of housekeeping. You'll see we're running this event on Zoom webinar, so you won't be able to ask your questions out loud, but you will be able to interact with us via the chat box. So please keep an eye on messages popping up that prompt you to ask questions ahead of the Q&A later. And you're welcome to submit questions and comments at any time. We have someone in the background who will be ready and waiting to answer those during the presentation, especially if you have more kind of MSc specific program questions. Please do note that this event is being recorded and we will be sharing that with all those who have registered and attended afterwards. So I won't dwell too long on the programme today as I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A with our alumni guest as possible. So to run you through what to expect, I'm going to spend the first 15 minutes or so introducing UCL and the faculty. And I'll provide some more information on how to apply, addressing some of our key kind of frequently asked questions from prospective students. And I'll then move on to the main event, which is the presentation by our alumni speaker. I'll go first to David and then to a video of Magdi, who has unfortunately not been able to join us in person, to share insights from their UCL journey and what they've gone on to do since. We'll then finish with Q&A. And as I said, please do direct your questions to them in the Q&A box below and let us know if it's to one of our guests or to both and include their name if it's specific. For questions to Magdi, he has confirmed he'd be happy to respond to those via email. So if you want to leave your email address there as well, then we can return a response to you. So I'll start today by talking to you about the UCL advantage and the position of engineering within the wider institution. So UCL is very proud to be consistently ranked among the world's top universities, featuring in the top 10 since 2013. These rankings really matter. They mean that we attract some of the best minds in the world to work with us as educators and to study with us as students. They're also the way that we give our graduates a competitive advantage. So graduating from a prestigious university helps on the job market or with future applications for doctoral research, particularly in fields where reputation is important. They also show our strength in building partnerships with other universities and with businesses and industry who we work with to apply our research. You'll also see here quite how diverse we are in our program portfolio, student, staff, and alumni community in the activities you can get involved with outside your study too. So I'll touch more on those a bit later. When you are joining UCL, you take a step to being part of more than just a place of study and research. We're a world-renowned institution that's been challenging conventions since its founding in 1826. And still today, our values continue to impact, inspire, and move the world forward. As you can see from the list of accolades here, we are a large and very diverse place. We're known for world-class research, global influence, and a diverse staff and student body. We're also home to many centres of teaching excellence in many subjects, including medicine, languages, law, history, astrophysics, and of course, engineering. We're also known for our progressive history, being the first university to welcome students of any religion and social background, to welcome women to university education, to have a fully open access university press, and to teach English, German, chemistry, and engineering in the UK. We're also particularly proud to say that the number of Nobel Prize winners we have has very recently risen from 30 to 32 just last month, both being AI pioneers. So Demis Hassabis and Geoffrey Hinton, who both have very close ties to our faculty. We're proud to be London's global university. We're truly universal and have partnerships with institutions worldwide. And in addition to our richly diverse staff and student communities, we have close to 500,000 alumni living all over the world. And the UCL advantage continues long after you graduate, which we are going to be hearing more about today. We're also delighted to see our alumni where they're now based with a range of social events and meetups. So in November, for example, we hosted free alumni events on the west coast of the US and in Indonesia, which were attended by engineering colleagues. Our faculty has an almost 200-year history as a founding feature at UCL. We have 10 departments and a huge portfolio of undergraduate and postgraduate programs. While we're one of 11 faculties at UCL, we represent around a fifth of UCL student numbers now and a fifth of research power, which is how we calculate, or how the UK government calculates the volume of research multiplied by impact and quality. So just like UCL as a whole, we're an incredibly rich and diverse community. So here you can see our diverse departments, all with one thing in common, academic rigor, innovation, and practicality. So with the aim of finding solutions to the world's biggest problems. We understand that you don't do engineering in a vacuum here at UCL. We like to be able to work in cross-disciplinary ways to cross those boundaries and ensure that we're connecting experts across a broad range of specialisms to affect change. As a faculty, we represent some of the usual suspects within engineering, but we're proud to combine those with subject areas you may not necessarily expect to see. So here we have the School of Management, our Engineering and Policy Department, STEEP, and Security and Crime Science. We're also very proud to champion this uniquely multidisciplinary approach, bringing engineering challenges and other subject areas across UCL closer together. So being part of the UCL community is inspiring and life-changing in many ways, not just academically. So London and our student life has a lot to offer beyond the classroom. Here you'll see our two main campuses, Bloomsbury on the left and UCL East on the right. The pink dots are UCL accommodation and the blue are the UCL campus buildings and facilities. So our accommodation services support students with alternative accommodation if the UCL accommodation is unavailable, such as renting privately or via University of London housing services too. So there's a range of support available to you on that front. And UCL Students' Union has over 400 clubs and societies. There's always a way to pick up a new hobby or meet new people. Engineering-specific societies are all the rage as well, including the Fleming Society, UCL Racing, our AI Society, and Healthcare Innovation Society, with so many others on offer too. The union also provides sports, fitness, and entertainment facilities. You can also get involved in representing Team UCL, both socially and competitively. And we provide advice and support in case you find yourself struggling. There's a team of wellbeing, disability and mental health experts on hand at UCL Support and Wellbeing. We also have equality, diversity and inclusion as fundamental to the ethos at UCL. So we encourage open-mindedness. It's outside of the classroom as well as in. You learn how to think, not what to think with us, and you'll have fun meeting other students who would like this experience too. So finally, we also have a dedicated careers service that serves students during their studies and 3 years after graduation with events, one-to-one guidance and resources. They can help to get jobs, internships for students, but also just are an opportunity to upskill and showcase your skills, your capacities more effectively on your CV, for example. And all students can benefit from the career service regardless of their program or faculty. So here are some highlights. And what's really interesting to see here is how many employers we work with to get our students into jobs after they finish. They come in to do careers events and fairs on campus and advertise a number of vacancies directly to our students. I'll run through very quickly now what we need from an application from you. So I've given lots of information on the slide, which I won't read through, but broadly, in terms of personal statements, we would advise applicants to cover 3 key topics. What about their background and previous experiences makes them suitable for the program they're applying for? What in particular the course and about the course and UCL interests them? So refer to specific information here. Take a look at the prospectus and departmental web pages first. And how would taking the course help you with your future plans and career aspirations? Our academic departments want to get a sense of your passion for and understanding of the subject area as much as anything else. And then when you should apply is also another key question that we get. So you'll see here for those requiring a visa, your deadlines are either April or June, and this varies by program, and is late August for those not needing a visa, as this reduces processing times. We would, however, recommend that postgraduate students apply as early as they possibly can. Admissions at UCL is done on a rolling basis, so we assess and issue decisions to applicants as they come in. So if you apply later, there will be fewer places available to be considered for, and in that sense, the competition increases. In terms of funding, there's lots of different types, scholarships, bursaries, and awards. Some are a small contribution to your studies, others may cover your full or half fees. Please note you can apply for some smaller awards in studies as well, so once you arrive at UCL to cover some costs. If there's nothing available to you at UCL institution level, I would also recommend that you search your relevant department and program pages for alternatives. There are also some companies, charities, and organizations that provide financial support to current students based on their degree of study or specific circumstances. And I would just note that the information on that QR code there currently lists the 2024 deadlines, and the 25 deadlines should become available soon. And finally, when can you hear more from us? So today is one of a number of virtual and in-person events that we will be hosting over the coming months to hear more about our range of programs and what life is like at UCL Engineering. So in January, we are running a series of open events where departments will present their master's program offerings in more detail. The events will take place mostly online and at different times of day to suit time zones, but we'll also be inviting those based in the UK or able to travel to the UK to join us on campus on Saturday, the 25th of January to see our Bloomsbury and Canary Wharf facilities with the School of Management, speak to our staff and students, and enjoy some taster lectures and demos. This will be followed by an evening dedicated to programs hosted over at UCL East Campus on the 12th of February. So I think I've done more than enough talking, and I am going to pass over now to David. David Flores obtained his biomedical engineering bachelor's in Mexico before attending and graduating with a biomaterials and tissue engineering master's in the mechanical engineering department at UCL in 2019. He's currently a PhD candidate in the biomedical engineering program at Arizona State University, studying drug delivery for traumatic brain injury, and has just defended his PhD thesis, I've just learned. So over to you, David.
Thank you, Lucy. Could you go to the next slide? All right. So as Lucy mentioned, my name is David Flores. I'm from Mexico. I did my bachelor's in biomedical engineering, almost more than 10 years ago now. Can you go to the next one, please? After my bachelor's degree, I worked for a little while at Johnson & Johnson on the failure analysis laboratory for mentor products. And then can you go to the next slide, please? Afterwards, I decided to go back into academia and decided to attend University College London for my master's degree in biomaterials and tissue engineering, which is my main area of interest, where where I made the honors and dean's list. And then right after graduating, so actually during my time in London, I had the opportunity to meet my current mentor who was visiting King's College London at that time, and she invited me to join the PhD program at Arizona State, where, as Lucy mentioned, I just defended a few weeks ago, and I'm graduating in a couple of weeks from my PhD in biomedical engineering. And again, as Lucy mentioned, I essentially use biomaterials to study and treat traumatic brain injury. Can you go to the next slide, please? So in the US, a lot of the work that PhD students have is mentoring undergraduate students, and they always ask me, what I like the most about going abroad for my master's degree. Can you go to the next slide, please? So firstly, it was a one-year program, which typically, in the US and at least in Mexico, most master's degrees are 2 years, which seemed like a lot of time for me at that point in time. But also coming from a Spanish-speaking country, I felt it was a great booster for programs in English. So it's a good booster if English is not your first language. It was not necessarily my case, but I had a lot of peers that studied mechanical engineering or industrial engineering, and they wanted to make a switch to, biotech or biomedical. And getting a master's degree in a different topic is a great way to, get a new specialty and change career paths. And what I tell most to the students here in the US is that it's great if you're unsure about going straight into your PhD program. In my home country, you typically go for a master's first and then for a PhD. And here in the US, students have the opportunity to go straight into their doctoral training. But if they're not sure they want to invest that amount of time, this is a great chance to see what academia looks like once they're living in it. And most importantly, most United States universities will validate your credits. So I ended up validating maybe like 30. I think I validated all of my credits back from my master's. So it was a great opportunity for me. Can you go to the next slide, Lucy? Uh, so the expenses. Before joining UCL, I was accepted at Rice University in Houston, and the expected cost of 1 year at Houston, based off of the university's website, was 84,000 US dollars per year. Um, and the expected cost for me to attend UCL in London at that time was like $74,000. So, despite what you might think, it was technically cheaper for me to move abroad and live in London for a year than it was for me to move to Houston for a year, which is something I feel most people underestimate. And then secondly, London, as Lucy mentioned, London is, it's one of the great capitals of the world. There's always something to do. There's a million of places to see and people to meet. You'll never get bored. All the foods you can think of, they're there. You just need to look for them. I really enjoyed my time there. And something that most people don't know, and I hope at least it's still the same way, all of the museums are free in the UK. And with your student IDs, most museums in mainland Europe, they're also very cheap. Can you go to the next slide, please? And as I just jumped the gun, traveling is a great opportunity. The United Kingdom has a great rail system, at least in my eyes. Where in Mexico and the US, the public transport's not great at all. Um, there's great public transport. You can visit most of the UK with relatively cheap trains, and also, traveling to mainland Europe, it's really cheap. I ended up visiting Germany a lot because those were often the cheapest flights. But if you're good at tracking down bargains, you'll be able to travel a lot more. Can you go to the next slide, Lucy? Okay, so what I really like UCL was the research and how they think about research. On my field, and the benefit of UCL is their research hospital. They have these ginormous building. I don't know if it's like 12 or 15 floors of a hospital right next to the main campus. So most of the biomedical research and imaging research, they're all thought out and designed to be applied at some point in that hospital next door. So the way the faculty thinks on how they're going to execute their work, just blew my mind. I really like that about the university. Can you go to the next point? The research culture, it's abundant. All of the student organizations that are, the professional student organizations, they'll host great events. Very often, every week, there will be, events from the biologists, from the geologists, from the physicists, from MedTech is one of the professional student groups I participated in a lot. And more often than not, you'll have very important speakers. I attended a couple of conference of talks given by Nobel laureates, and they're just the immensity and the quality that UCL has. It's not like they advertise it as a grand magna event. It was just so common that they were, flyers on the random buildings and in the engineering buildings. Whereas in other places, it's like, I don't know, their magnum event of the year what you were able to catch in UCL was, common. And also the types of relationships with PIs and their and as a student, I feel that at least in my home country and here in the US, I feel there's often a sort of unspoken barrier between the PIs and their students, and I didn't feel that existed over there. The environment is very relaxed and it's very open to communication, and even if it's not professional, like all the conferences afterwards, they have little mixers, and the PIs will approach groups of students talking and just chat about research, about work, about what just presented. So the culture, it's very different over there. Can you go to the next slide, please? Uh, UCL has grad student exclusive study and rest areas. You guys have your own microwaves, your own computer like rooms. There's even rooms where there's just a bunch of sofas because they know we'll all just go there and crash in between classes. That's just something unheard of everywhere I've been. That's something I really miss, and I'm really trying to get on over here, but it's kind of difficult. Can you go to the next point? The student unions over there, they really and actually have power. Like the student government over there, they have power. They actually have the ability to call on strikes when the working conditions for the students are not right. And that's something just unheard of here in the US. I think it just recently happened in California, but that's, like rare. And over there, it's just one of the weapons the student union actually has. Can you go to the next? And finally, the place I spent a lot of time was the Pringbrim Cafe, which is, if I remember correctly, under the main building. If you go early enough, they'll still have like freshly baked chocolate donuts that are my absolute favorite. That was my absolute favorite. Like a flat white and one of those chocolate donuts would be my breakfast most often than not. Can you go to the next slide? And then finally, there's a lot of things to do in London. This is just a few of my favorites. A lot of the museums. I live near the Camden Market in Max Rain House, which is the cheapest housing. And the Holly Arms Pub serves, in my opinion, one of the best burgers in all of London. The public transport, as I mentioned, and I am a huge tennis fanatic. And this is a picture of the match I saw between Roger Federer and Kei Nishikori back in 2018 Wimbledon. So, if you like soccer and many other sports, there's huge opportunities to live in London. And that's all I prepared for you guys today. In the corner of all my slides, you have my email address if you want to ask me any questions.
Thanks so much for that, David. And I can confirm the museums in London are still free unless you pay for the really excruciatingly costly exhibitions. I'm also a big fan of how close we feel to Europe and how much traveling is available to us, which is really, really excellent. So I will go now to Magdi, who had a slightly different student journey at UCL to David, completing his bachelor's at UCL in our medical physics and biomedical engineering department. He then went on to complete a master's in the US at Stanford in computer science. For those who missed this at the beginning, Magdi was unfortunately unable to join us last minute, but he's left us a video of his time at UCL. If this sparks questions for Magdi, if you could leave the question and your email in the Q&A chat, then we'll email that to him and he can respond to you directly. So I'm just going to go to change my screen share options. Give me one moment. So I hope everybody's able to see and
but I wanted
hear
to
this.
record the little video. Hello all. Sorry that I can't be speaking to you live, but I wanted to record a little video to capture just how great my time at UCL was, and maybe give you a little bit of a perspective on sort of the title of this event, which is where a UCL engineering degree can take you. So a bit about myself. My name is Magdi Salah. I attended UCL from 2014 to 2017, doing a Bachelor of Engineering, a BEng in Biomedical Engineering, as part of the Medical Engineering and Medical Physics department. And I had a fantastic time, and I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of sort of what my experience at UCL was like, what I've been up to since, and how I feel like my UCL degree has really helped me sort of pursue the things that I wanted to pursue and do the things that I've been doing. So For a bit of context, I came into UCL, first of all, thinking that I wanted to do civil engineering, and very quickly sort of being the confused 18-year-old that I was at the time, thinking actually like I wanted to do biomedical engineering instead. And the department was very accommodating to my desire to switch and let me join this new and exciting course. I was part of the first batch of biomedical engineering, or BME, courses. The course was fantastic. It was, I think, 8 of us at the time. And we got to really become very close friends with the entire department. And although there was a lot of stuff that was happening for the first time, everything went very smooth, and it was such a good education. I think a few things specific to the course that I really liked were that we got to explore a wide variety of very important foundational knowledge that pertains to biomedical engineering, whether that it was sort of foundations of anatomy and physiology, or foundations of electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. So it gave us this like huge space to explore our own interests and ideas. And throughout the 3 years, the department invited so many interesting guest speakers and allowed for so many opportunities to meet the larger research faculty at the university, which meant that we got to meet so many cool people doing very interesting research and get involved in however way we could. It was also a part, and it's still a part, the current degree of the IEP program. And I think I really liked and was very fond of the project weeks that we got to do before, like 4 times a year for the first 2 years. I think sort of we had all come from different backgrounds, and being forced or encouraged to work as a group with different team members intensively for a week on something just felt very rewarding, and felt like a very welcome break from the normal sort of lectures and coursework pattern. So all that is to say that throughout my 3 years at UCL, I had the option to work and study on a lot of things that I really enjoyed. I got to have sort of this deep and wide foundation of knowledge that then I could take into whatever direction that I wanted. And a few things that I wanted to highlight from my experience, in addition to what I've said, that I really, really enjoyed, were my second year summer, for example. After our second year, I had met during the second year a researcher who's still at the university, called Dr. Simon Walker Samuel, who had come and given a guest lecture about how they were using different types of magnetic resonance imaging to solve these new and interesting and very novel problems to do with cancer. And I just followed up with an email, and at the time I was 19 years old. This very distinguished researcher gave me the time of day, and also every other researcher that I'd ever emailed sort of was very open to meet and spend time with me. And then I got to spend the summer working on a research project within his lab that then I actually petitioned to have be my 3rd-year project, and was able to sort of be a part of the team that published that. At the other university that I've been, sort of the process of being involved with sort of cutting edge research was a lot more arduous. And so this was a really great way to be introduced to the world of research and get to work with really interesting people just by sort of sending an email or meeting someone. And so I was always very, very touched by that like UCL had this very relaxed environment of collaboration and of people reaching out and getting to talk to different people, and and it always welcomed with excitement anyone who wanted to sort of try out new things. So I really, really enjoyed that. And so I graduated in 2017 with the BEng. And what I've been up to since then is through this research project and through the minor in programming that I took while at UCL, I realized that I really, really enjoyed the computational side of my work, which led me to decide to pursue a master's program in computer science with a focus on biocomputation and sort of computer vision for medical image analysis. I did that at Stanford from 2017 to 2019. And while I was there, I did a lot of coursework on natural language processing and in artificial intelligence, which led me then after graduation in 2019 to start work at a startup in Los Angeles that focused on natural language processing in call centers, which was a bit of a deviation of what I originally studied. And then 2 years onwards, I joined in late 2021. I joined the company that I'm currently with, Predabase, where I now still work, and I now live in New York. And the company that I'm with now works on sort of making large language models faster to run, sort of the language models that are similar to what people may have seen with ChatGPT, faster to run and more specialized for use cases for big enterprises or big companies. So if they want to use that, they come to a company like ours. My path has not been sort of this traditional path of continuing what I've studied in undergrad, but when I look at my peers, both from UCL, I think a lot of them have taken this exciting foundation that they got from the university and have gone on to do very interesting things. So whether or not they're also doing biomedical engineering or biomedical sciences or sort of things within that field, definitely not a guarantee. We have some friends who have gone on to do their PhDs and are sort of researchers doing very interesting work within biomedical engineering. And we have people that have gone on to work at tech companies, people who have gone to join banks and financial institutions around London, people who have, like me, traveled to the US and have stayed there and are working in technology. But I think the common thread amongst all of us is that we felt that our education at UCL, especially the undergraduate one that I can speak to, really put us in a fantastic position to go and pursue the things that we wanted. I think we learned a lot of academic rigor and sort of how to follow our intellectual curiosities to their natural conclusions and learn how to work really hard on projects and ask a lot of the questions and sort of get to the bottom of things and present our work and be challenged and pushed to really refine our thinking and get to places where we are communicating our thoughts clearly and effectively. But also we learned a lot of the softer skills of just what does it mean to collaborate with a team? What does it mean to give feedback and receive feedback? What does it mean to listen to others and be a bit more attentive? So while it is a very technical degree, and I do think you come out with a fantastic technical foundation, I think you also learn a lot about what it means to take that technical work and give it context and make it approachable to the people around you. And so I think it was all exemplified by one of the challenges in the scenario weeks where we were asked to sort of take our engineering skills and design an aid for people with disabilities. And so at the time, some teams designed a utensil that helps people sort of put on or off their glasses if they're a bit challenged with that movement. And to me, that is just the perfect summation of what UCL really stood for, which is, or the UCL engineering degree really stood for, which is sort of take the technical knowledge, take the skills that you've learned, and then go and find something that is important, apply it, communicate it well, and sort of close the loop on making sure that it has some sort of an impact or some sort of a real world application that really matters to people. So this is a bit about myself. Lucy, please feel free to share my email, which I will follow up with anyone. I would love to take any questions and be helpful. I can't recommend my time at UCL enough. One aspect that I didn't touch on is just how amazing it is to be in London and in central London and have all these amazing cultural and exciting things that are happening around you all the time. So please apply to UCL. If you're coming from abroad, they make it very easy for you to figure out sort of all the visa stuff. They are very clear about what you need. The university is lovely. I stayed in halls the first year, and it was a lot of fun. You make lifelong friends, and you really do get a world-class education out of it. So I hope you do. I hope you sort of choose to pursue a degree at UCL, and thank you so much for listening to me.
Great. So that was just a little spot from Magdi as well. So I will head back to the main slides here, and I think I'm going to move straight on to Q&A. So David, if I could welcome you back. It's all really from me, and I'd like to open the floor to questions now. If anyone has any questions, please direct them to the Q&A box. I can see there's been a couple of questions throughout the chat that my colleagues are answering. But I wanted to start off with you, David. I just wanted to understand, I suppose, what's your favorite memory of your time at UCL?
That's a good question. My favorite memory. I think so at that time I was reading a book called The Butchering Art, which talks about how the concept of surgeons washing their hands like first came into existence, and he talks about Joseph Lister, who studied medicine at UCL. So when I finished that book, and then I went into the med school, like the building, the original med school building, which is like a red brick building across from the main portico of UCL, and I saw all of the details that they explain in the book, and I saw the building as it was described in the book. It was just kind of I guess inspiring, right? Like the possibility, like the history, just knowing that the kind of people that have been at UCL, and kind of inspiring on what you could do next.
Yeah, it's really powerful being part of the history that's gone before. What I suppose you were in UCL Engineering, but also within a department within UCL Engineering. What opportunities do you feel were kind of available to you to make sure that you felt part of that sort of faculty and also the department community? What did you get involved with?
I think straight away. So the first day you go there, there's like I don't remember the phrase they use for the event, but it's essentially an introduction. And they have these room at the mechanical engineering department, uh, pretty large, and they just host like social events there relatively often. And it was just an open invitation, like all the faculty was there, and all the international students for the master's programs were there. And there was just food, and to my surprise, and like this blew my mind, there was wine, which was unheard of, like from my undergrad days and from whatever I've heard about, academia. And, the faculty was there just mingling with the students and just talking about the research. The event was supposed to last a couple hours, but I remember we left there after like maybe 4 or 5 hours, just talking to other students, talking to the faculty, considering it's a 1 year program, and as the other speaker mentioned, there's rigor. So you kind of want to find your mentor early so you can start working right away. So that process was like, that experience on the first day there was great, right? Like people were approachable, and willing to talk and include you in their research, from the first day.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. Was that something that was quite different for you in terms of your bachelor's education moving through to your master's education? So like, I suppose the level of informality, or the level of kind of engagement that you might get with professors on a one-to-one basis?
Um, I would say my university in undergrad, it's not very research focused. So the very few research that was available, it was sort of on an invitation basis, right? Like the PI has to essentially, if you had the luck of taking a class with a PI that had a research, capacity, and they, you did well in that class and they kind of like you, they would offer or extend an invitation for you to work with them. And it was the other way around here. Like you approach them, you just start chatting about the research, what do they do, and it was very, very different. Like there was not that level of like there was not those layers of formality I feel exist in my home institution.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I have a couple of questions from the audience. Do you have any tips for a personal statement to be successful in a sort of admission application? I guess it's a long way back, but do you remember the kind of things that you highlighted as part of your admissions process?
I don't remember my letter at the top of my head. If you email me, I'll gladly send you my I have to fish it out of my old laptop, but I'll fish it out and send it to you if that helps at all.
If the
I
person
don't
who
like
asked that
writing.
question is still on, then do put your email in the box and we can definitely facilitate that.
Yes. Do you have my email, or do you want me to put it on the?
Oh yeah, if you want to stick that in the chat, that would be even better. Then they can direct it to you. That would be fantastic. I think from our perspective, I think I've kind of covered the main points that we usually get asked. But it is very much like we want to understand who you are as a person. It's much more holistic than just your GPA. We
Yeah.
are interested in what you want to do. I think the UCL engineering strapline has changed the world. We want people who are interested in kind of making a difference to society. We want to know what you'll do with your degree. We want to know why it is that specific degree and why specifically UCL interests you rather than another institution. And again, that can be anything from an interest in a particular academic and the work that they're doing. And similarly, anything if there are optional modules or core modules that are particularly of interest to you that you see on the program pages, we'd love to hear more about that and how that sort of will allow you to tailor your learning. Did you have any experiences of working with industry while you were on your program? And did you feel like you were ready for, industrial applications as well as further research, going then on to a doctoral degree?
So I almost stayed at UCL for my PhD. We were in talks with a company who I shall not name. But they wanted to do a project for one of the issues they were having at one of their facilities, and they were essentially going to pay for me to do my PhD and essentially solve that problem for them throughout my 4 years there. That ended up not coming to fruition. um, and I decided to go to the States to pursue the degree. But as far as I understand, that's a very common occurrence. Like industry will just go to, and a lot of UCL faculty have ties, connections in industry, and that's just very a common occurrence. Like the company will pay for your education, and that's pretty much a guaranteed job straight out of your PhD. So if you're interested in staying, especially as an international student, I would start fishing out those opportunities as soon as you get a good enough rapport with the PIs or your professors. That's a
Mhm.
complete possibility.
Yeah, I'd add to that we offer a number of kind of networking activities. These range department to department, but we run some that are more kind of UCL engineering generic. We bring alumni back in who are obviously now either working in industry or as researchers to speak to students. There's networking opportunities with company partners, and we work with companies in industry to apply that research. It's one of the ways that we can demonstrate the impact of the work that we do from a reputational perspective. Those industry partners are really, really critical to the way that we teach as well. We have a number of programs that have a suite of industrial professors as well as academic professors. So you're learning immediately from somebody who's primarily based in the job market already. And again, those opportunities can sometimes end up in internships. We really, really encourage that the master's dissertation is taken as a research project. As I think Magdi suggested in his third year, he was able to do that in collaboration with industry on a particular project. And that's something that we
I'll
highly recommend for master's students, particularly.
I'll add quickly. One of my classes, I think it was called Advanced Biomaterials or something like that. All the lectures were essentially a different clinician from the hospital came and gave a talk on how they employ biomaterials for their specific expertises. And essentially, they're like, this is a problem we have right now. If anyone thinks about a solution, like email me and we can start working on it. Like that was straight up all that class was about. You know, MDs coming in saying this is a problem we have, this is why this is a problem, and like, does anyone know how we could try and solve it? That was essentially the purpose of that class. So the possibilities are large there.
Yeah, I would say that what we do is not particularly prescriptive in that sense. I think there's a lot of flexibility and independence to be able to choose the subject matter that suits you. And again, if you have an answer to a challenge, we're going to use your brains earlier than just after graduation. The application of that is really, really valuable, both to us and to the students themselves. Um, So someone's asked about prerequisite programming languages that would be they should be aware of before applying to programs at UCL. I'm assuming that for mechanical engineering there weren't any, but did you have kind of prerequisite sort of coding and stuff that was useful to you when you were on the program?
None of uh back in that time, a lot of biomaterial, like none of the biomaterial work required programming knowledge. Right now, that's completely different. So I would look into the courses and see what they ask for. As for me, like I knew, CAD and fluid simulation, very basic MATLAB I knew as well, but I didn't use much of it. But right now, I'm sure that the requisites are different.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. I think, yeah, I would also advise we deal with that on a kind of program by program basis. And on each of the program prospectus pages, we have a sort of list of specific entry requirements that will tell you the kind of degree that we would require from you, whether something like economics would be transferable to the program or whether it needs to be a kind of harder engineering undergraduate degree. And it should also indicate whether programming would be required or advantageous. So I would say definitely make sure that you have a look at those individually. Um, I would. I'll finish sort of by I think another one is that's just come up is an MSc in medical physics. Are there any practical sessions or only theoretical? And I would say I think you've also kind of gone into details about the practicalities or like people coming in and sort of pitching ideas to you and saying, has anybody got an idea that would work for this? There's an awful lot of lab-based work across our programs. I think we are interested in theory, but the practical application of what we do is very important across the board at UCL. Do you have sort of reflections on the lab-based work that you did that you could share, David?
Yeah, so I actually, one of my peers from the master's program actually went into like the PhD of the medical physics department. Uh, they, by the time I graduated in 2019, they just have finished building like an underground facility where they had like, state of the art MRIs and stuff like that. And I'm certain they were scanning, you have studies where you use volunteers and you scan them right up, but also as part of the UCL system, they have access to certain scans from the hospital. So that implies that the statistical power of their studies is pretty large when you have a hospital worth of scans available to you as a medical physics and imaging researcher.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you'll have a lot to work on medical physics at UCL.
Fantastic. Um, does UCL help to mentor students to become chartered in their field? So I'm not sure if your degree program came with a charter, David, but what I would say is that that tends to depend on the accreditation that's associated with your degree. And those details will also be on the prospectus pages. Most of the MSc programs that we offer have an accreditation with a certain chartership. And it's less about the mentoring and more about the completion of the degree that would enable you to apply for the charter, as that kind of relationship between industry and the employees and the university, as is accredited to suggest that the research and the teaching that you've undertaken meets a certain industry standard. So again, I double check depending on the program of your interest in that perspective. Final question. I think I'll go to one more, which is again from me. If you could give one piece of advice to someone considering applying to UCL engineering, what would it be?
Do it. I feel the amount of growth you experience as a person and as a professional, as a researcher, when you leave not only your hometown but your home country, it's humbling. The level of independence you reach is something, you'll come back home a totally different person. You'll be submerged in a completely different culture. That's my time in UCL and in London. It's something like I've never experienced, and I would say the level of openness and kind of uh, kindness, I guess, I experienced living in London was something I did not experience in the US at all. So I would say try the hardest to do it. Financially, it's tough sometimes, but if you do enough digging, you'll most likely find a way to pay for it. And then, sometimes I lived at Max Rain House, which was the cheapest accommodation UCL had at that time. I'm willing to bet it's still the cheapest one. You barely spend time. It doesn't matter how, bad your room is or how small you think it is. You barely spend time in it. There's just so much things to do. You're barely there. So don't let that be a distraction or a reason to not go and pursue it.
Fantastic, thank you. Just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to hear from you. Really appreciate your openness, and also for providing your email address in case people want to get in touch. So I will give everybody a few minutes of their time back and kind of conclude the event. But thank you and good luck with your applications. Any other questions, I think as I've shown in the slide previously about applications in UCL in general, you can direct to us at engineering.srm@ucl.ac.uk. But for now, I will thank Magdi, who will see this recording afterwards, I'm sure. And thank you to David for joining us. This has been really lovely to speak to you, and really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you all.
Great. So thanks so much for joining us, everybody. We will make sure the recording is available to you at a later date, and speak soon. Bye.